Every couple of months, I focus on vocal recording, and that's where the dilemmas begin for me. You see, I've had a home studio for more than 25 years. Sometimes I'll have a band come in and I record here. Other times I'll just record my own stuff. Sometimes I collaborate online, but every once in a while I bring in a guest vocalist. And when I do, I want to offer the best possible quality. So I start evaluating all my gear all over again. It's like I'm learning from scratch every single time. I'm pretty happy with my Apollo X4, and I've got more than 50 UAD plugins. The acoustic treatment in the studio is not too bad, but the real dilemma is that I only have budget microphones. I've never spent the big bucks on buying a high-end, high-quality microphone for vocals or acoustic recording. And the issue just keeps coming up. And what is the issue, really? There's a lot of artists out there that make perfectly good vocal recordings with a Shure SM58. And I hear that and I think, wow, they're not spending big bucks and they're getting great results. Tons more people have an AT2020 and they get good results out of it. So I have this looming feeling that you can take a budget microphone and by using the right plugins and the right configuration, you can make it sound really good. And that holds me back from buying a high-end microphone. Now, when I'm really serious with a good vocalist, I'll go out and rent, a $5,000 or $6,000 microphone, preamp, and I'll put it all together because I know I'm going to be working with them for about a month. But so far, I never buy it, I just rent it when I need it. A couple weeks ago, I'm at this very point and I'm evaluating the budget microphones that I have. And I see this article in Music Radar recommending 3 microphones. And guess what? I own all 3. Now their recommendation varies depending on how you plan to use the microphone. And there's one small difference in what I have. Instead of a Shure SM7b as my primary dynamic microphone, I'm using a UAD SD1. And I'm really happy with that microphone. I love the sound, I love the tone, I love the fact that I don't need a cloud lifter to get a reasonable signal out of it. It also came with the UA Hemispheres plugin. So there's some variation you can make with just that one microphone. The other microphone that I have set up and ready to go is a Rode NT1. And everything I read and understood about the NT1 was that it was a good quality, large diaphragm condenser microphone with extremely low internal noise. So I thought I would get good results with that. And in addition to those two, I have an AT2035. Now the AT2020 is extremely popular. I have one of those as well. But the AT2035 has a slightly bigger capsule and it has a couple switches for rolling off low frequencies. So there you go. I have 3 choices and a huge dilemma. I'm trying to get a fair test to compare these 3 condenser microphones. In order to do that, I'm using my Apollo X4 audio interface, and it has unison preamps on the first 4 channels. So you can see here, I've got them all set up, and they all have the 48 volts turned on. Now, every channel has to be exactly the same for this to work. They're all using the same channel strip, which is the 610B, and it has the same settings. So how much tube, the level, the output, it's the same on all 3. And they're all using same compressor with the exact same setting, which is, I named it lead vocal. And they are all using this Pultec EQ with this setting, Vox Male Presence. That way, I'm getting a fair comparison of what it's like to record with these microphones, right? I also have auto-tune turned on, and I can just explain that the reason I have that enabled is that I did the vocal singing. I'm singing into these 3 condenser microphones at the same time, so I have them all in close proximity. Because I'm not a great singer, I have the auto-tune turned on, so a little bit of vanity there. But in order to get a fair comparison, I had to make sure that each one of these channels is exactly the same. Now, one variable is the amount of gain on each channel. I have them set to be the same, but every mic has a different level of sensitivity. So the first time I did this, I tried to even out the sensitivity by turning on a level meter that would show me how much gain I have on each channel. And I was aiming for -12 to -6 dB. So if we take a look at the Logic project I used to record these condenser microphones, on this track, number 3, I've got the NT1. On the next track, I've got the Apex microphone. And on the next one, I've got the AT2035. And you'll see I did another take of the NT1 because, quite frankly, I really wasn't impressed with the first cut. Now, I can't really play these samples for you because I'll get a copyright strike. I used a cover song and just sang to that cover song. Been thinking about you all night. Guess you've got me in your spell. And I could just A-B between the different cuts, right? I can just solo whatever vocal track I want and compare them, which I did quite a bit. Now, on each one of those Logic tracks, I do have an assortment of plugins. Got a channel EQ, compressor, which is turned off, de-esser, and I've got those level meters, which came in very handy. So I could just get a sense of whether I was getting an equal level, these 3 mics. So I went to some trouble to try and get a very fair and even test. That's the bottom line. So here are my impressions of my collection of budget mics. First one, the AT2035, was, in my opinion, the best. I find this mic is a very honest one. It doesn't promise to do anything more than it can do. The tone was good. It's great value. It's definitely a step up over the AT2020. I have one of those as well. And I found this was well worth the extra $50. You can get these things used for about $100. I think new they're around $175 to $200. If I had a very limited budget, I would use this mic. I'd use it over and over again. I'd get used to it, and I'd make any EQ or compression adjustments that I need to with plugins. The next one is the super popular Rode NT1, and I can tell you that I really don't like this mic. Contrary to the AT2035, this thing seems deceptive and overrated. It's very sensitive, so it's going to pick up a lot of room noise. If you don't have a quiet room environment, you're going to need a noise gate or plugins that help reduce that noise. But the other thing I found was that it was very difficult, even with compression, to keep the gain within a certain range. I'm aiming for anything from -6 dB to -12 dB, but this thing jumps all over the place. It's very hard to control. It has great specs, but they don't translate into great sounds according to my ears. So I have to do considerable tweaking with plugins and my Apollo X4 audio interface to get a good sound out of this. I also have a pretty old Apex 430, which isn't bad. It's one of the lowest cost ones in this group. I think it was always underrated. It also is very sensitive, and I can easily overpower this mic with strong vocals, even adjusting the gain, even using compression. There are great specs, but again, they don't translate into wonderful sound. I found I was getting some distortion. In that Music Radar article, they recommended the Shure SM7b if you're looking for a dynamic mic. And I'm sure you've noticed on YouTube and podcasts, everybody has this mic, and you got to be questioning why. Don't get me wrong. It's great quality, it's capable of a lot, and it has all the characteristics of a dynamic mic. It was somewhat made famous by Michael Jackson using it as his primary recording mic way back during Thriller. But there's a lot of problems with this microphone. First of all, it's low output, so you need a cloud lifter or you need an audio interface that has a ton of gain. There's a recent YouTube video just in the last week basically highlighting all of its shortcomings and saying, hey, it's crap. Why do people keep buying it? The other thing a friend of mine said at lunch just the other day, every time he watches a YouTube video, there's a guy with this massive broadcast mic right in front of his face. What's the point? I mean, you could have a pencil microphone or another microphone out of the frame so you don't have to stare at a Shure SM7b. Why do they do that? I found you have to do considerable tweaking with this mic to get sounds that you're after if you're recording vocals. For the narrow frequency range that you use for voiceovers, does the job. But instead, I bought a UA-SD1. I like Universal Audio's remake of this, and I find that it's more honest. There's no cloud lifter necessary, has far less noise than an SM7B, and it also came with this Hemispheres plugin, which is their modeling plugin. If you want to get more variety out of this very simple dynamic microphone, Universal Audio is the way to go. Now, if you have a home studio like me, or you're a bedroom producer, you're probably always going to wrestle with how much do I invest in that high-end vocal mic? Do I go big time on a vintage U87 or a 47? Do I stick with the budget mics and just try to compensate for their shortcomings? Or do I find something in between that's a little bit more cost-effective but is almost as good as a U87? And I've been down this road many times. So I've looked at a lot of U87 and U47 clones. I do a lot of studying, I look at the specs, and I cruise the used market to see if I can get a deal. But so far, I haven't bought anything. If you found this topic interesting, or you have opinions on it, click on the like button, add your comments. I respond to everybody. Consider subscribing to the channel. I'm interested in your point of view. Thanks for watching.